Hey, Mariana here, just dropping by to let you know before the episode starts that we know the audio sounds a little wonky in this one. Gus was away directing a little movie when we recorded this. He was a little bit out in the boonies and his audio doesn't sound that great. It'll be better next week when he's home, so forgive us our trespasses. Okay, goodbye.
Don't you want the story twice? Have no fear, the studio say remake so.
I've started recording.
Great.
And my waveform is looking nice.
Yeah, this is what a pleasant experience this week has been, you know?
It was really a nice week. I'm so glad. It's our first pleasant week, only 4 weeks in.
Exactly. Yeah. This is the week that we prove that our goal is not just to shit on absolutely every remake and prove that you can make a remake that isn't hot garbage and is actually competent and of reasonable budget.
Yeah. Although, that's 1 out of 4, which is
not great.
Great. Welcome to Once More with Feeling, a podcast about great original movies, and they're often not so great remakes, although not this week, which is nice. I am comedian and screenwriter and now director of a short film. Mm-hmm. Ooh, that's scary. Gus Schiff.
And I'm Mariana Colleen. I'm a critic. I gotta take this to therapy or something. My aversion to the title critic is a little pathological, I think.
Yeah, but it's you gotta think of critic not as the modern critic who just kind of just tell you that movies exist,
right?
But the good ones.
I'm a scholar. We'll say that.
Yeah. Okay. You give intros like you're a war correspondent, just trying to get through it so you can get to the interesting parts. This week we watched Cinderella, and hopefully you did too.
We did. We watched Cinderella, and it was such a good time.
Yeah. Disney's 1950 and 2015 Cinderella.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
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 Let's just get into it. Let's talk about the first one first.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to give a brief little background on 1950, the year, and particularly U.S. 1950. World War II, obviously over. Shout out to the end of the war. But the Cold War is now started. I think most people, and I'm one of those people likes to look at 1947 as the beginning of the Cold War. That was kind of when the post-war working together of the Comintern and the Allies fell apart. It's also, I think, right when the U.S. knew that the Soviets had stolen atomic secrets. They would detonate their first nuke a year later in 1948, and when that happened, everyone just kind of assumed they were gonna die soon. It's sort of I think there's a lot of similarity. I don't want to talk about this too much because it's outside the scope of the podcast, but there's a lot of similarity, I think, between nuclear proliferation and artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
There's a large amount of very intelligent people who are yeah, we're probably going to die in a decade, but what can you do? Same energy back then. Obviously that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm. And which also really, really doesn't translate when you look at the media from this era through today's lens. It's and we'll get to this in a bit, because I just think it's super fascinating, that this was also a time period of intense internal propaganda in the United States. This is the beginning of one where in direct contrast to the Nazis, but since they're not around anymore at this point, to Soviet Russia and their tight control over media that was explicit, that was much more much more dictatorial. And here the intention was much more social engineering, just like sort of gently guide people into this sort of consumerist fantasy where all they have to worry about is themselves and whether they're performing the right role and keeping up with the Joneses, you know.
And that's also something that's really, really interesting because obviously the war brought the U.S. out of the Great Depression, kickstarted massive American manufacturing. And when the war ended, that kept going. They just went from tanks and planes and guns to consumer automobiles and refrigerators.
Well, and there was no competition. Like Europe was decimated; it was gone.
Exactly. So was Japan. So was China, which in 1947 also underwent. How do I say this? The most neutrally possible. Underwent a revolution and became communist as well, although a distinct form of communism from Russian communism. The Marshall Plan started in 1948, I think. As I always thought it was just, like a result of World War II. The U.S. was like, out of the kindness of their hearts, was like, let's rebuild Europe. And then, of course, the reality is like they did it to combat Soviet influence.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was, wildly successful.
But I mean, isn't establishing good business practices and doing things out of the kindness of your heart kind of the same thing, Gus? Don't you think?
I think the Marshall Plan. Look. We've talked about this. I'm not against capitalism, like the concept of it, and I think the Marshall Plan is like as good capitalist foreign policy as you're ever going to get. You get rich, they get rich, their place comes back, everything's good.
Yeah, sure. If getting rich is the point of life.
I mean, isn't it?
Oh no.
That's why I'm doing this.
Oh God.
As soon as I make $1 million, I'm fucking out.
I am cutting this out.
Quality of life. 1950s also when you really kind of start when the US, I guess after World War II is when the US really starts suburbanizing. There was an element of like this giant manufacturing happening, but as with a lot of U.S. history, despite what certain members of the federal government would tell you, suburbanization had a lot to do with Black people existing. After the war, there's something that kept happening in the U.S. where after a major conflict, Black folk would kind of realize, like, well, wait a second, this is bullshit, and to start agitating against it. It happened after the Civil War with Reconstruction. It happened after World War I. That's why there were a series of race riots and like lynchings and bombings across the country in the period of like 1919 to 1922.
It should be said, like, this was terrorism, and it was terrorism that was
for sure.
Unilaterally coming from the white societies that were in power. When I was a kid, like, we were always like, I learned the Tulsa massacre was called the Tulsa race riot, and there was this like implication that it's just that Black people and white people really hated each other back then, and not and not that white people just decided that this thriving Black community shouldn't exist and went in and killed everybody.
Yeah, there was a lot of, I think, what some people call race riots and some people call massacres. Most of it started with like white aggression. The one in Chicago, which is the one that I'm like, Chicago is very interesting. I had a whole class on it in college. This is when Black people started to like buy homes in a neighborhood known as Hyde Park. And then because they started buying homes there was like a bombing campaign against Black homeowners and against people and against white real estate people who would sell to them. In a kind of embarrassingly for the bombers, like they only killed one person, which like I feel like, and there were like over 40 bombings, and then you had the Chicago. I learned it as the Chicago race riot. At some point, I think it was 1922, but I could be wrong. And that started because like there was in Lake Michigan was segregated. You know, there was a white swimming area and black swimming area. And like this black child swam into the white part of the lake, and some white like teens, early 20s kids like started throwing rocks at him, and he got hit on the head and drowned.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And then there was a big conflagration of tensions. And a couple white people died and a lot more black people died. And it lasted a while. It was pretty bad. Anyway, what was I saying? Suburbanization.
Yeah, deep redlining times. Serious redlining times.
Yes, exactly. So
and this was also when it like simultaneously and concurrent with all the redlining is when you've got all these veterans from World War II coming back from the war and being given jobs and given housing, and like suburbanization didn't just like happen. Like even if you think of it in terms of I don't know, free market housing or whatever, that still didn't just happen. Like there was a really strident effort by the federal government to make sure that veterans especially had housing and jobs and
when we say veterans.
Like,
and we say
black,
veterans,
of course.
Right? It is white veterans, and like this was when the GI Bill, like the first big thing. So a lot of veterans went to college. A lot of white veterans went to college, and it really, like my grandfather was in the war, and he like used the GI Bill to go to school, and he became he got a degree in mining engineering. He ended up working in the White House for a little bit because his dad. Not long story short, but it really changed like a lot of fortunes, and they didn't have to live in cities anymore. And then like a lot of government money went out of cities because that's where the black people lived, and went into suburbs because that's where the white people lived, and it's a whole thing. So really interesting.
It is really interesting.
Not in the scope of the podcast.
I think it's tangential, but it's related to the podcast, I think, because this is a time when the sort of, like we said, that sort of consumerist fantasy, very, very important that stick, and that people understand life in America through those terms specifically. So,
that is a really good point. Yeah, it is kind of when, like, looking back at history, like, the 50s was really kind of like, be a good American, buy a Ford.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. Be a good American, buy a refrigerator, buy a toaster.
Exactly. Buy a microwave.
That you had a little bit before it, but not to the same degree. This was, and this was kind of when industrialized commerce really started taking off.
And Walt Disney was not only perfectly willing to participate in that, he was also like, kind of uniquely situated as an artist and a business person to make that happen and continue the legacy he had already been steadily building. Yeah,
for sure. And you mentioned a little bit earlier the sort of concerted media effort, with the Hays Code and all that. But also, we're saying every major American media company took a lot of money from the U.S. military to make propaganda films.
The film industry was literally a wing of the U.S. military during the war.
Yeah, for those four-ish years. So there's, and a lot of people did it very, very happily because like, one thing about World War II, really important to note, it was not a very complicated war. Well, like
logistically, of course, very complicated, but
like morally, not a complicated war. A lot of Americans, most living Americans, I think almost all of our military conflicts have been like pretty kind of ethically like. But World War II was like very easy to get behind.
Yeah, sure. People to this day call it like the only good war or whatever. It is. Certainly by Pearl Harbor.
Right.
Before that,
which
a little dubious.
Yeah,
There's a big isolationist
sure.
streak in this country, definitely.
For sure.
Some Nazi sympathizers.
Which is to say, like, the film industry was not unhappy about having to produce what they produced.
No, certainly not. No, and then afterward, oh my God, when the American dream becomes about money and glamour and, you know, shiny plastic things.
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
that's what,
shiny metal things, because plastic, you know, was a little bit later.
I guess so. But I mean, that's what Hollywood does best. That's what it has always done best.
Yeah. Also, the Korean War was about to start.
Yay.
Started June 25th, 1950.
We're just hopping right into the South Pacific with our awesome foreign policy campaigns.
Hell yeah. Although I think that's the West Pacific.
I guess so.
Not
we were also very much in the South Pacific at that point.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. And then specifically, let's talk about Disney for a second in 1950. As we talked about last time with Dumbo, the reason they made Dumbo was Pinocchio flopped because they didn't have access to Asian and European markets.
That's why the animation is kind of mid.
Yeah. But Bambi also flopped. Fantasia also flopped. Most, like, Disney did not really turn a profit during the war. And by 1947, basically by the end of the war, they were like in debt. And so they abandoned just like single story narrative features like the ones that we've covered so far. And they went to, and I actually wrote this down, they went to something called package films. And these were the movies like Three Caballeros, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, which were essentially just animated shorts kind of packaged together
Anthologies.
with some frame story, which were a lot cheaper to produce, but also made a lot less money. So like one of the movies they made, which I don't remember the name of, but it was a Mickey Mouse movie. It made money. It turned a profit of about a couple $100,000, but it basically brought Disney from like $4 million in debt to like $3.6 million in debt. And so as the war ended and as Asia and Europe recovered and people started going to the movies again, Disney was like, it's time to make a feature, because for the same reason he made Snow White, features cost more to produce, but also made a lot more money. And at this, they were developing, he had been developing Cinderella. So this is something that's really interesting. I'll talk about this in a sec. In 1950, like in this period, they were developing, I'm sure, a bunch of movies, but 3 movies that would eventually come out: Cinderella, Alice in Wonderland, and Peter Pan. They were being developed simultaneously, and Cinderella basically had the vision first, which is why it was made first of those 3 movies. Something that's really interesting about Cinderella, 1950 Cinderella is actually not Disney's first Cinderella.
I knew that. Yeah, didn't he?
I did not know.
It's like it's like one of the first movies he ever made when he was like a kid.
Yeah,
right?
it was like before he went to Hollywood, back when it was still like a laugh-o-gram. He made a Cinderella short in 1922.
That's wild.
It was. I watched it earlier today. It was like really cute. The animation was awful, but the characters, like, it had that kind of Disney look, especially like Steamboat Willie, Oswald the Cat, Disney. It's what was really interesting to me was like it was a contemporary Cinderella. Like Cinderella's dress is a flapper dress, and Cinderella and the prince, when they dance, they do the Charleston. I
tried to pull it up, but it's like not available on YouTube for whatever reason.
Yes, it is.
Somebody
I watched it on YouTube.
What? I pulled up the link and it said no, not for you.
Maybe you clicked the wrong link.
I must have. Whatever. I'll go watch it later.
Yeah. That's it. That's the history, I guess.
No.
No? There's more?
No, of course there's more. You gotta talk about what the...
Oh, right. It comes out. I forgot. There's all... So it
Bye,
premieres
everybody.
on...
That's the end of the podcast.
Bye. So it released, like, the press see it December of 1949, which is why some of the press reviews come out like early. But it's released, it premieres publicly in Boston for some reason in February 15th of 1950. And just like Snow White is a gigantic hit. May Tinney of the Chicago Tribune raves, even the most hardened cynic will find the charms of this film difficult to resist. Bosley Crowther of the New York Times says when the animals are joined with Cinderella in advancing her undismayed career, singing and busy about business, that the picture, it is when the animals are joined by Cinderella in advancing her undismayed career, singing and dance and busy about business, that the picture has a real and flowing joy. One thing that I noticed with the critic reviews that I read is they all kind of uniformly preferred the animals to Cinderella and the Prince.
Yeah, that is interesting.
There was a lot of talk about, like, yeah, the leads are kind of like lifeless and doll-like, but the animals are so much fun.
That's super fascinating to me because, like, I gotta say, I don't remember feeling this kind of cynical ire when I was a kid and watched Cinderella over and over and over until the tape burned through. But the mice annoy the shit out of me.
When you watched it?
Yes.
Just now?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I just I hate their stupid baby talk. I hate that they're anthropomorphized. One of my favorite things about Snow White is that none of the animals are anthropomorphized and none of them speak. Like, some of them, like, you know, have sort of human interactions with her, but like there's something like that strikes me as deeply weird about this idea of this parallel mouse society that has been like cultivated by Cinderella, like she's civilizing these mice, you know. It just strikes me as really strange, and I mean, whatever, it's not a big deal, okay? Like, this is completely a personal subjective opinion.
I want to talk about the mice in a second, just as soon as I talk about public response to Snow White.
Go for it.
Which is basically, here's what I wrote. The critics, I guess, also compared it to Snow White, saying like the Disney of Snow White was back finally. But it was also like Snow White in another way, insanely profitable. RKO made like $4.25 million off of it.
Jesus.
As of 1952. I don't know what the split was between RKO and Disney, but as far as I could tell, modern distributors will take like between like 20 and 50%. So like at a minimum, I think Disney made that same amount, if not more. And just how Snow White's insane profits allowed Disney to build the Burbank studio, the Cinderella profits allowed him to, like, in addition to normal production company things like financing more movies, and protecting against like flops or whatever, he created a distribution company called Buena Vista Film Distribution. He started building Disneyland, and they started like planning Disney World, all because of Cinderella.
Do you think that's why Cinderella is like so central to so much Disney merchandising and marketing and such? Like, it's the Cinderella castle that's the sort of image of Disney.
Yeah.
Is it not? It's not the Sleeping Beauty castle. Am I correct in that?
I don't know, because I thought that I watched the live action one first, and spoilers for later when we start comparing them. The live action palace is just like a European palace.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I was like, wait a second, the Cinderella castle, that's where you get the Disney castle from. Like,
right.
What the fuck is this?
But
and then,
also, as a spoiler for later when we start comparing them, the new Cinderella is not technically a remake. I'm doing heavy bullshit. Air quotes here.
No, that's not correct.
No, of course it isn't.
But then when I was watching the animated one last night, you see the palace way off in the distance, and it also, like, it's got the towering spires and all that, but it's not the same shape. But at the same time, it's like the Disneyland castle is the Cinderella castle, which is the Disney castle, but it's not the castle that's in the movie.
Are we certain? Okay, so like I was reading a book earlier today that kept saying it was the Sleeping Beauty castle, and it was a bad book, and so I'm certain it was wrong.
But
let's just find out. Disney castle. Disney Castle, Cinderella, or Sleeping Beauty.
Okay, wait. The Cinderella castle is in Disney World. What the fuck is in Disneyland?
What? No way. It's the same castle.
Disneyland castle. That's this. Oh my god. The Disneyland castle is the Sleeping Beauty castle.
Oh my god.
The Disney World castle is the Cinderella castle.
Oh my god. Well, then what's the logo?
I think the logo is the Sleeping Beauty castle.
Okay.
But Sleeping Beauty, that came out like 1959, right?
Yeah.
But Disney World opened in 1955. What the fuck? Is Disney a time travel? Hold on.
Yeah, this is irritating to me. Okay, so, I mean, the Disneyland castle seems to me like the one that's in the logo. It seems like that's maybe the, but we're gonna have to cut so much out. Okay, it's fine. What castle is the Disney logo? That's what I want to know. It's
both.
No way.
Isn't it?
It's Sleeping Beauty.
No, it's the Sleeping Beauty castle.
It's Sleeping Beauty.
No, it's a Cinderella castle.
No,
oh my God.
it's Sleeping Beauty. I was so
it's
wrong.
both. Oh, Jesus.
It's so iconic that, like, you'd think that this would just be a known quantity.
Yeah.
It's Sleeping Beauty.
Okay. That's so
What?
weird.
The logo almost always features a fairy tale castle directly inspired by Disneyland's Sleeping Beauty Castle and the Magic Kingdom's Cinderella Castle, which has undergone several changes. Okay.
I think it's both. I
All
think
right.
they just took both of their iconic towering castles and did both of the castles.
Okay. Disney.
Whatever.
Doing historical revisionism since the beginning.
That's annoying.
Okay, let's proceed.
Okay, so animated Cinderella. You talked about the mice a second ago. I
did, and how I don't like them.
I don't like the mice either, because one of the mice's names is Gus Gus, and he's a fat idiot. And when I was younger, I was like moderately overweight, and I got really angry when people compared me to Gus Gus from Cinderella. So this is a movie that I have never liked that much because
you've been, it represents trauma to you.
Yeah, I wrote, my note says Gus slander. This is Gus slander. Yeah, I didn't like it.
Yeah, they're super annoying. I don't like the mice. Whatever. I guess it's a personal opinion, not worth belaboring. So I guess I will say that I do really, really like all the mouse humor. All the mouse humor is really, really well animated. It's like the mice are doing the same thing that the dwarves are doing in Snow White. That's their purpose here.
I don't agree with that.
Ooh.
I think the mice are doing the same thing as Tom and Jerry are doing for a different company.
I did see a couple reviews comparing the two and suggesting that maybe they were, trying to compete.
There's a moment that Lucifer chases like Jack or whoever into a mouse hole, slams into it, and then turns to the camera with his mouth or his snout in the shape of the hole.
Yes,
that's classic Tom and Jerry.
It is.
Tom and Jerry first started coming out in 1940. 10 years.
Listen, it's classic Tom
Cinderella.
and Jerry, but I think there's an extent to which all of these early animators are not only informing each other, but also working with some fairly basic visual humor. It doesn't take a genius to come up with the idea of a cat smashing into a mouse hole and then having his snout being molded into the shape of the mouse hole.
It doesn't, but compare the kind of slapstick humor with the animals in this movie compared to previous Disney movies. Right? It's a lot. It's what's really interesting to me is so we've seen three movies before this one, right?
Yeah.
Two of them were very filmy.
Yes.
And then Dumbo was very cartoony.
But I will disagree. Pinocchio is also very cartoony. There are aspects of Pinocchio that aren't at all, and that are a little more sophisticated, I guess. I don't know. But like, Honest John and Gideon are cartoony as fuck. We talked about it where it's like, I wondered in our conversation whether they were trying to compete with Looney Tunes at that point.
Yeah.
Because it was so cartoony.
With the mallet and stuff.
Yeah. Come on, that's mallet fair. Humor, you know?
Yeah, of course. But also, I think this movie is the most smashed together of those two styles so far.
Mm-hmm. I won't disagree with that. I just think it works. I like it.
I think it's funny. You just said you hate the mice.
I do hate the mice. I hate how they talk and how they behave, but like all of the actual mouse humor, all of the animated stunts that they do, I think is really, really cute. And also I do not like the mice. I love Lucifer. Hilarious cat. Hilarious movie cat. He's great.
Lucifer is so evil.
I know.
Yeah. I like that a lot too. I have not seen this movie in a while because of the aforementioned hatred.
Yeah, I hadn't either.
I was surprised by how much of the movie was like the adventures of Jack and Gus and not actually Cinderella stuff.
I know.
Most of the movie is the mice.
Yes. And I remember loving that as a kid. I loved the mice when I was a kid. I thought they were adorable and funny, and it's one of those filmmaking aspects that is just here for the kids, and that's it. That's how it reads to me. Yeah. I don't know. It seems like again, that's a point at which it seems like the animation in this movie is sort of departing a little bit from Snow White, where again it was it wasn't clear what animation was for. It wasn't clear whether this was going to be like the idea of a type of art style completely made for kids, especially in film, which was so young at the time, was like, obviously people were imagining it, but the idea that children could themselves constitute an entire like marketing block in and of themselves, I think was not as clear as it is by this point in time.
Yeah, this does feel a lot more. You just said it. I'm just repeating what you said. Classic man stuff. I get what you're saying. I see that a lot. There's none of those, like, one of the things that we've mentioned with the last, I'm way too far from my mic. One of the things we mentioned from the last three is like, each of those movies has like a legitimately like creepy, scary moment. Like the woods with Snow White, the pink elephant dance from Dumbo, the Neverland Island, Bad Boy Island,
right?
Get Drunk Island with Pinocchio, and then Cinderella doesn't have any of that.
No, not at all. There are a couple moments that are a little like foreboding, maybe, but it's all told through just visual framing and whatever, which itself is also like very, very late 40s, early 50s filmmaking style, like that. Like it feels like I read a little bit about this. I didn't want to do the research on the original one because that's not my job. But I did.
No, it's my job.
But I did, and tell me if this sounds familiar to you. That they like, in order to cut down on production costs, they basically shot the whole thing on cameras.
Yes.
And then, like, it wasn't rotoscoping, but they did use it as precise references. Yeah. So it feels, so the effect is really interesting filmically. Like it feels like a movie from the 50s, and you can see it, like the way that the camera is positioned and the kinds of shots that they're choosing. It's
There was something I saw out of that was like some of the animators were complaining because they wanted to do this shot, and the studio people were like, well, we can't get a camera up there. It's like, okay, we can draw from there. And they were overruled.
Unbelievable. That's stupid. I'm mad for them.
Interesting. I wanted to talk about, obviously we haven't watched Alice in Wonderland yet.
Yes. Isn't that next?
But it is next.
How exciting.
But there were two things that I noticed from my memory of Alice in Wonderland, which I guess we'll see in the next podcast if I'm right. Young Cinderella in the opening looks exactly like Alice in Wonderland.
She does, doesn't she? She's even got the bow and whatever.
Yeah, and the Cheshire Cat noises, or I'm sorry, the Lucifer noises that he made sounded like what I remember the Cheshire Cat.
I can almost guarantee that they, reuse some character designs and reuse some. There's the little whistle that the bird does, like within the first 4 minutes, I think, is from Three Caballeros.
Good. Glad that you picked up on that.
I did. True Disney viewer.
And then it's like, a lot of those, like, that makes sense, right? Alice in Wonderland comes out next year, right? 1951. Three Caballeros came out a couple years ago, I think 1947. The conductor of the orchestra looks like Cogsworth from Beauty and the Beast, which is a movie, I think it came out in the 80s or the early 90s. That is very interesting to me because as I was watching this movie, I liked Pinocchio. I liked the movies that we've watched already. There was something about Cinderella that was like, this in my mind is what Disney movies look like.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, they really solidified the animation style, the illustration style that is synonymous with Disney now, where it's in the same way that anime is synonymous with Japan, this sort of specifically the Cinderella character design is kind of synonymous with 50s American culture, I feel. On that note, I consider this this is the first Disney princess movie. Snow White doesn't count. Snow White diverts from the Disney princess model in so many ways. And Cinderella, for better and worse, I think is the Disney princess. This is where it begins, in keeping with that sort of consumerist fantasy thing or whatever. There's something of the temporarily embarrassed millionaire about this story,
Yes.
There's Cinderella, like Snow White, seems sort of, blessed and charmed in this magical way where she has this relationship with these animals or whatever. But unlike Snow White, the position she's in feels wrong for her. It feels unnatural, which is not something that Snow White really touches upon at all. To its great benefit, I think it's one of the best parts of that story, But again, this is a point in time where wealth and the appearance of glamour and glamour associated with virtue and both inward and outward beauty, these are the same thing, very much in keeping with the time. And also, this again is a time of Jesus, Rita, bless you. My dog just sneezed. This is a time of great social engineering. Great. I great as in large, not great as in good.
Yeah, a lot.
Huge social engineering.
They're making all these microwaves. People need to buy them.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's specifically about women's behavior that in the beginning of Disney with Snow White wasn't really in place. I think that a lot of the ire that people apply to Disney princesses and apply to Snow White, I think people blame Snow White for the problems with Disney that Cinderella caused.
That's something I was so fascinated by that because I noticed that same thing where it's the way that Snow White kind of traded those services for housing and protection in a kind of heroine way. Cinderella does as a virtue. Yeah. As a thing that women should do this. And if they do this enough and are pure enough, then a rich guy will come and marry them off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That you just need to sit around and have faith and wish really hard,
And what's really interesting, and I came across this when I was researching it. Let me find it exactly so I don't misquote the Wikipedia article. But during the development process, basically one of the writers who was on it wanted to do a more like progressive take. This is a guy named Maurice Rapf. In Rap's version, Cinderella was written to be a less passive character than Snow White and more rebellious against her stepfamily. He explained, "My thinking was you can't have someone who comes in and changes everything for you. It can't be delivered on a platter. You've got to earn it." So in my version, the fairy godmother said, "It's okay till midnight, but from then on, it's up to you." I made her earn it, and what she had to do to achieve it was to rebel against her stepmother and stepsisters to stop being a slave in her own home. So I had a scene where they're ordering her around and she throws the stuff back at them. She revolts. So they lock her up in the attic. I don't think anyone took my idea very seriously.
Sure, not allowed in 1949 or whatever.
Yeah, and I think that's so interesting to look at.
It is, and complete your point first.
Well, I was just going to say, like, you know, the point in the movie where she would kind of do that, what happens in the movie that was produced is she hears the prince is coming and she goes into a daze.
Yeah.
And that's it. And then the stepmother puts it together and locks her away.
And it's funny. I mean, that shot is an oft used GIF for a reason, where she's just like in a daze and the stepsisters are just like throwing clothes into her arms and she's not even noticing it. It's super funny. And the animation is excellent. But I mean, she really does not do anything in, again, the same way that people accuse Snow White of doing when she doesn't at all. It makes me so mad. But also, so last time? No, I think
it doesn't matter. Between 1 and 3 times ago.
It was for the Snow White episode. I absolutely remember. We talked a little bit about, like, if you're going to remake a movie, go back and see, like, what they cut out, what was cut for time, what was cut for cost, whatever, and draw upon that. And it seems like with the new one, that's exactly what they did. Like, I don't think and we'll talk about it in a minute, but in the new one, she doesn't, like, explicitly rebel necessarily, but she is a lot more active, and she does make a point of calling out the injustice of her situation, and is not simply this girl who
caricature.
Yeah,
she's
around and wishes real hard.
Listen, Cinderella in this version of the story is a bit of a caricature of a 50s household. Mm-hmm. And I think that's on purpose.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, down to her, like, I love the character design. She's really, really beautiful, drawn really beautifully. Yeah. So 50s, with her hair.
Yeah, with the hairdo?
Yeah, oh the hairdo of when she's in the ball gown and out of the ball gown. It's still that sort of, like, the big curls or whatever. Yeah. And the ball gown itself with the choker and the headband. It's so 50s. It's super, super beautiful. But extremely 50s, and also extremely 50s. To equate that kind of beauty with virtue specifically, that, like, it's another, change in the new one that is absolutely correct to not make them, quote, ugly stepsisters, the fact that, and they say it, like, plainly in the movie, that, like, that Lady Tremaine is jealous of Cinderella because of her grace and beauty and whatever, and her, like, stupid, awkward daughters. They say, like, awkward daughters, that, like,
one of the things I noticed in the animated movie is you can tell how evil a character is based on how many lines are in their face. Like, how many wrinkles do they have?
Oh, the nasolabial folds in these stepsisters.
Yeah, and then the mom has 2 pairs of lines, so she's twice as evil as the stepsister.
And also the stepsister's voice acting is, like, it's very what's her name? Who was the Wicked Witch of the West? What is her name?
Idina Menzel.
No. No, in the original.
Cynthia Erivo.
No, in the original Wizard of Oz. What is her name?
I don't know.
But where it's kind of witchy, Get these clothes and iron them by hand, in an hour. It's, like, really harsh R's, and it doesn't have
Margaret
Hamilton. Yes, thank you. But where it's, like, this sort of caricature of kind of like a, this this shrill
Annoying.
harpy, who's like in that accent is like coded a little underclass, you know, that like that accent, that like sort of transatlantic accent that Cinderella is using is like coded very upper class, very classy, you know, very desirable. So, I mean, Cinderella is very much a part of a cultural tradition that was obsessed with the instructive potential of media for women in a way that I think Snow White kind of isn't. And like also like physically, like Snow White is like, she's adorable. She's a super cutie pie, but she's like,
she's a child.
Yeah, she's a child, but she's also like, but even if she wasn't, even if she was a couple years older, the beauty standard for Snow White is so completely unlike the beauty standard that follows in all the other Disney princesses that like pre-war America just wasn't as rigid and, you know, intentional about what constituted physical beauty. And like her hair is short. Her waist isn't like super teeny tiny. Like, you know, it's like the beauty that she represents in that movie is supposed to be about behavior and is not necessarily confluent with how she looks, which feels very much not the case here.
Yeah, I agree. One of the things, because we've talked a lot about how this story is very emblematic of 50s America. Obviously, this is not like Disney's original story, right?
Right.
This kind of, I don't want to call it a trope, but this kind of structure of like the poor girl is virtuous and then gets found and discovered by a super rich prince and lives happily ever after has been around forever.
Totally.
There's stories of it back in Greek mythology, but this kind of like Cinderella specific thing is also very old. The original Cinderella story is Italian from 1634. It's an Italian story called, apologies in advance, Legata Cenerentola by Giambattista Basila.
Beautiful.
Sorry. In his collection of stories called the Pentamerone. And it has some familiar elements. Cenerentola. Her dad is a widower, but there's a couple differences. Like she's responsible for her stepmother, who was her governess, like married. There are 6 stepchildren. The dad brings back to her like a magical bucket and a magical hoe, and she like plants this fig tree, and the fig tree is what gives her, like, when the ball happens, she gets the clothes from the fig tree. And then that story was adapted by French person Charles Perrault.
Do it again.
Charles Perrault, something like that. And that's a story, Cendrillon ou la petite pantoufle de verre.
Better than I could have done.
Yeah, this is a story that Disney pretty explicitly based his Cinderella on. This is where the glass slipper shows up. There's some strong differences, like in this story, like the dad is still alive. There's multiple balls. The stepsisters also live happily ever after.
Which one is the one where the stepsisters like hack off?
That's
their
the fucked up
feet?
one.
Okay.
Unsurprisingly, that's the German story.
Okay.
That comes out. So the French version comes out in 1697. The French version is released, whatever. And then the Brothers Grimm, they adapted into their German book of fairy tales called Aschenputtel. Puttel, whatever. That's by the Brothers Grimm. There's one version released in 1812, and one version, and then a sort of re-released version 7 years later in 1819. And this is the really grotesque one that a lot of people are like, oh, did you know in the original Cinderella, like the stepsisters cut off parts of their feet to fit into the slippers? And then also magical doves peck out their eyes at the end. And also that's like Cinderella wanted them to lose their eyes. Like that, I actually thought that was the original Cinderella. Yeah, I fell for the fake news, but no, it's the original is Italian. The one that Disney based him off I based it off of is the French one from 1697, and then the German one was like 120 years later, and that's the really fucked up one. So it's like it's interesting. It's really
hey Gus. Can I call you Gus?
Fuck you. God damn it, son of a bitch.
What was your favorite song?
You know what's interesting? Normally in musicals, I really like the upbeat, fun song. So I expected going into this. Well, number one, I forgot this was a musical because I watched
Bibbidi bobbidi boo.
Because I watched the new one first, and there wasn't any music in it. But also,
it's not a remake. Actually, it's not a remake, so don't call it one.
Right, it's not a remake. Our whole podcast is fucked. I thought once I remembered it was a musical, I thought it was going to be Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, right? But I actually really ended up liking the Nightingale song with the bubbles.
Yeah, me too.
That one was really beautiful.
It is really beautiful. As a standalone song, I think that is my favorite.
Yeah.
And also, continuing this sort of Disney tradition of having some kind of weird, sort of abstract sequence in the movie.
With the bubbles?
Yeah, the bubbles.
Yeah.
It's really nice. It's a little less abstract than like the pink elephants, maybe, but it's interesting
really
that they.
Cool. What was your favorite moment?
My favorite
in this animated film.
I've got. Can I have two?
Yes.
Okay. One is when Lucifer's playing the cup game, basically, and
and he pulls the cup off and he moves to the next one so fast he doesn't see the mouse underneath. But
then he notices that in himself and he's like, and he makes that face like, I'm such an idiot. Oh my God, it's so funny.
I literally rewinded to watch that two more times. That was so good.
It's such good animation. It's such good character building, like visual character building, and also the transformation shot when she's like, when she changes into the ball gown is just so pretty. It's so beautiful. The entire Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo sequence is overall my favorite in the movie. Yeah. It's really lovely.
Yeah. I really liked, what did I really like? I also had two. One was I watched this with my sister because I am up with my family right now, visiting them. And actually, we talked a bit ago. There's no like scary part of this movie. Mm-hmm. There's a part that's a little scary when the king sends his riders after the carriage.
Oh my God!
He's like,
hang on,
evil.
Hang on.
What? What?
No, can you not hear my dogs like going crazy?
No.
Really, you can't?
Are they going crazy?
That's crazy. You can't hear them at all?
I don't know. Maybe Zoom does a lot of stuff.
That's so weird. They're barking like crazy. Ross! Rita! So sorry.
You're gonna sound so stupid when you are editing this.
Shut up.
It's just silence.
I'm gonna let the puppy out. 1 second.
Okay.
He's so cute. He's such an idiot. He's destroyed so many things already, but that's okay.
Aww.
He's just a baby.
Cute.
Okay, anyway. Scary sequence.
Yeah, so we talked about the scary sequence before, and there wasn't really one in this movie, except that when the king sends his riders after the carriage, and there are these like shadowy figures on shadowy horseback with the streaks of red, and it's like, my sister was like, why do the king's horses look so evil? And I was like, yeah, that's a really good question. I thought that was pretty.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd call it scary so much as just tense. It's like evoking high stakes, which I think is like, I think a decent time to talk about something I want to touch upon with this movie, which is that it's really beautiful. This is a good movie, like we've spent quite a bit of time talking about how like, unlike Snow White, it actually is extremely retrograde in its assumptions about what women are fit for and the role of romance as properly constituting the sort of focus of a woman's life. However, like in fact, I have a time review for the new one in front of me that I think is really emblematic of the kind of attitude, the kind of unhealthy attitude that I think kind of brought us to this situation where everybody's just sort of shitting on Disney romance and kind of romance in general, that is coming from liberals, unfortunately, where it's like this assumption that like this accusation that Disney romances and romances in general are like unrealistic and therefore bad, and like, yeah, they are unrealistic. Unrealistic romances are potentially bad. I think that's certainly the case. Let's see what. Sorry, give me 1 second. The Time reviewer, Richard Corliss, says, whatever its appeal to many generations of children, this is one Disney feature that today looks coarse and ill-conceived, which does not read to me at all. This doesn't look coarse or ill-conceived. I'm so over people getting all sneery about how, it's always like love with first sight with Disney princesses, and like they're so unrealistic or whatever. That I just think that like with a movie like this, and like that may be the case for other movies who do similar things and follow a similar formula, but like the way that early Disney approaches fairy tales is in a very classic fashion, which is like very bare bones a lot of the time. Like it tells you the important parts and then you fill in the gaps on your own. Like it's not important who the prince is or what he's like, because this isn't a movie about character development or showcasing their acting or whatever, or showcasing like a good and I don't know, a certain kind of romance or whatever. It's a movie about the feeling of like that entire sequence, the So This Is Love, is about a feeling. It's not about the reality of being in a relationship. Be real, right. Like it's a case in which these early Disney movies is a time where Disney is still very, very focused on animation as the central focus of artistry. That like animation on its own can imply these huge emotional swells that don't need to be backed up or justified by like specific pieces of character development.
Not every movie romance has to be This Is 40.
No. Yeah. I mean, it's like, yeah, this is not some like positivist claim of what love should properly be or look like, or like what happens 20 years down the road. And I'm so over that kind of literalism and cynicism when it's like it is kind of I several years ago made a video about Twilight, defending Twilight, that like I think Twilight is doing a kind of like a similar thing where it's like of course it's important for girls to understand what a healthy relationship looks like, but like there's something kind of internally misogynistic, I think, in the claim, that the sort of derision toward what being in love feels like, right. And like that's what the animation in this movie serves to support, and it's beautiful. Like those shots where they're like during the waltz, and the entire So This Is Love sequence is super, super beautiful, and the beauty is the point. It's like, when you're in love, it feels like everything is safe and kind and beautiful, and all the pieces fall into place, and everything is perfect, and you change nothing. And that's what the point of this movie is, And
I agree wholeheartedly.
And also that women don't need to do anything except cook or clean and sit around and wish.
Clean, stay pure.
Yes.
And then my other favorite part of the movie was when the king is trying to kill the Duke in the bedroom, and they bounce up, and he gets hung on the chandelier, or he's hanging over the chandelier. When the chandelier comes crashing down, there's a goofy yell, like a Wilhelm scream, but the goofy noise, like, oh, I can't do it. I like that a lot. Yeah. I love when studios and directors and whatever put in little like things referencing their other work, and I was like, great, cool, awesome.
Okay, you want to move on to the next one?
Okay. Yeah. Right. This is where the ad goes when we have ads. This episode brought to you by not having ads yet. Maybe.
This episode brought to you by a spare bedroom with a window unit that I have to turn off for recording.
Ouch.
I'm so sweaty. Cinderella, 2019. 95.
2015.
No.
2015.
No. 2015. You're
No.
so right.
2015.
You've never
Yeah.
been righter. Yes, 2015. 10 years ago. 10 years ago, they started making this shit.
Yeah.
Even before that. No, this all started with Alice in Wonderland, which is also a Disney remake. They produced it. For some reason...
Which we'll be covering next time.
Yes. For some reason, like, considering how horrible, how dog shit the Dumbo remake is... it's interesting to me that it seems like Alice in Wonderland had a lot less studio meddling. It seems a lot more Tim Burton-y, you know? We'll get into it next time. So after Alice in Wonderland did super well, it was like, I don't know, it was like second or third in box office.
Modern history. I'm so excited.
And so they immediately greenlit Cinderella. And I think another couple of things. I think Beauty and the Beast, they also... started making around this time.
Because they came out like right after.
Yeah, they started. They really got going.
Well, my sister told me Modern Beauty and the Beast is also not a musical.
Correct.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Oh wait,
I'm sorry.
No,
we'll
wait,
get
wait,
to
wait,
it
wait,
later.
wait. No, it is a musical. It absolutely is.
Okay.
It absolutely is.
Okay.
Yeah, your sister.
Then she was messing.
Yeah,
up.
You've never been righter than in this past 5 minutes, and she's never been wronger. Yeah, New Beauty and the Beast is a musical. This one isn't. Cinderella isn't a musical because, again, it is not a remake. This is like Disney, for some reason, is like super hesitant to embrace the remake thing at this point, which I think is good. They should have kept whatever executives are making those decisions. They should have kept them around because, like, it seems like these remakes do a lot better when there's some kind of, when
it's a different movie.
Yeah, well, yeah,
when
totally.
It's not just the same movie,
but also like
with people.
It seems like, I think art in general kind of does better when there's sort of an uphill battle where you have to justify yourself, justify your own existence, you know?
Yeah.
And it seems like Disney in this year was still willing to do that and, wasn't just completely leaning on their complete monopoly over modern media. Like, this movie is fancy. It's fancy as fuck and it's expensive, but it's I think Pinocchio was, no, Lady and the Tramp was cheaper. This movie was $95 million before marketing, which is like a steal by Disney remake standards.
I have to ask, how much was Snow White? Do you remember?
Snow White was between $250 and $300 million before marketing.
How the fuck?
And marketing, as we know, adds like 50%.
At least. How the fuck, like, because that's, and we'll talk, number one, like, the costumes and the sets in this movie are absolutely beautiful. How in the fuck do you do this for $95 million? And you do and it takes more than double to make something that looks as bad as Snow White.
I know. It's really incredible. There were competent people working on this movie. Like, there were people who actually wanted to make a movie that looked good and I don't know, provided a good working environment. Like, I don't know, like they weren't relying on their stars to do all their work for them in the same way that Snow White did, like, and in the same way that Little Mermaid did. I don't know if they, I'd be so interested to know, and we're never going to, like, what the boardroom looks like, you know, in the Cinderella 2015 era compared to last year, you know, or even
the boardroom,
like
the production, like the high level production meetings.
And like who is in that room and who left, and because it just doesn't feel like the same level of professionalism in the recent remakes.
No, not at all.
This, like, Cinderella 2015 feels like a Disney movie. And it's not like, it's not great or anything, but it's...
No, it's...
Yeah.
The other movies, except for Pinocchio, but I think that was still Snow White trauma. But the other movies, like, I was upset that I had to watch them.
Right. Yeah.
And this one, I was like,
yeah, cute.
It's pretty. Yeah.
Okay.
All
right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But there was like, so famously, Alice in Wonderland 2, I want to say, has Alice in armor.
Through the Looking Glass.
Yes.
Yeah.
The original script for this Cinderella remake had like a really active sort of action heroine Cinderella. I don't know that's a great decision. But like, it does seem like at this point there was a lot more creative leeway for the screenwriters, the directors, anybody who was like the costume designers, whatever. Like, they were at least willing to entertain interesting ideas that diverted from the Disney standard. Because again, this is not a remake.
It's not a remake. It's another live action movie.
Yes.
Based on the Charles.
Yes,
Perrault.
Based on the original Cinderella story, not the 1950s version, which is utter horseshit. It's not true at all. They like drop all sorts of references to the 1950 version, obviously, because this is a remake.
100%.
So anyway, Aline Brosh McKenna, who also wrote 27 Dresses and The Devil Wears Prada, all of these like, sort of like corporate feminism type girl bossing rom-coms, wrote the original script. Let's see. Do I have okay. Gus, do you know what a pitch deal is?
No.
Okay. I kept seeing the phrase pitch deal, like in the Deadline article.
What did it say?
Well, so Disney paid 7 figures for the script alone, if I am understanding what a pitch deal is.
Okay. Can you link that to me just so I can see it in context?
Yeah.
Because I have some understanding. Believe it or not, I have not personally been approached by Disney to write a script for them, but I have some familiarity with how the process works for these like major IP companies.
Okay, it seems like I am right. I just don't want to,
Can you just link me the fucking article?
I am. Jesus.
You're taking so long.
Oh my god, I didn't have it open.
I thought you were a scholar. Why aren't you sourcing every claim you put down?
The headline says that they paid 7 figures to Aline Brosh McKenna, so I guess that's what they must have done.
Let me see that. Okay, so here's what I think it is. Basically, when or my understanding is that when a big company like Disney, like DC, or like Warner Brothers, when they have a IP that they want a story on, in this case Cinderella, they're like, we wanted this movie. Mattel's doing this a lot right now. They just announced a Hot Wheels movie, right? They did this with Barbie. They did this with Polly Pocket, right? They will, agents will submit their clients, or they will go to specific writers looking for like a take, right? Okay. And so a handful of writers will come in with their take, and the executives will ideally pick one and hire them to write it.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right. For a project like that, you're not going to get anything done on spec.
Yeah.
Right. So Disney paid this woman from her pitch a large amount of money to turn that pitch into a script.
Gotcha.
Is what it sounds like.
That makes sense. I mean, so like, for Deadline, for the industry, like that was, that's like big news that like, holy shit, look how much money they spent on just this,
It's that, but it's also like, and you can see it in the Deadline article. It's like it's because Alice in Wonderland had an insane opening weekend. Yeah. Right. And they're like, oh, there's an appetite for these. Right. Let's get more going and let's make them good and let's make them quick.
But they were sparing no expense with this movie, I guess is the point. But even then, $98 million for this movie is like, that's they were running a tight ship, you know?
And
there were rewrites and there were this was not an uncomplicated movie. And yet they still managed to make it competently. Which just feeds into my money laundering scheme theory for Disney remakes.
There's a chance. There's something that happened kind of around this period. Once tech started getting into producing entertainment, is every producer in town was like, we can charge like Netflix like 4 times what we would like our actual fee because they'll pay for it. We can charge Apple like 4 times our actual fee because they'll pay for it. Right? Like, if you look at Netflix's original movies like Red Notice, The Gray Man, like these movies that are not exceptional.
Right.
They're very normal action movies. Red Notice cost $200 million to make. That does not show up on screen. Right? Gray Man was a similar amount. It doesn't show up on screen.
It's immoral, you know?
Yeah. And so my guess is like
because I can also tell you that it's certainly not going to the fucking lighting guy or whatever.
No,
you know?
it's definitely not. Although, you know, the lighting guy, when it's shot in the U.S., is still making pretty decent money. Should be making more worker power, but you know, Hollywood entertainment unions are very good, and union work pays very well, which is why everyone's trying to destroy it. That's incredible that they made a movie that looks this good and is as good as it is for under $100 million.
Right. And like for under $100 million, like this kind of, to me, sort of nails what Disney remakes kind of should be, where there is some respect to the source material. They're not using it as crutch, you know, it doesn't seem like they're using it as an excuse to like skimp out on creative decisions and then just like blame the original when things are I've just got such Snow White trauma. But then also it seems like they were approaching
Is that our phrase? Is that going to be our first merch? Snow White trauma?
Ask me about my Snow White trauma. Like this is also just like competently produced. It seems like there was some effort to have in a very Disney fashion, again, for better or worse, like have marketing in mind, and you know, for how we're gonna sell this movie and how we're gonna convince people to watch this remake, you know, because it is not clear that that's something that people will pay money to see. So, you know, in that way, this movie is very much justifying itself on costume design. The costuming is very much the main focus of the marketing materials.
It's gorgeous.
It's beautiful.
It's so good. It's exactly, and I was looking at this and I was like, why is the costuming working so well in this
because
movie?
It's really anachronistic. Like everything that Cate Blanchett wears is so like Joan Crawford, which is not appropriate for this like, you know, Renaissance costuming.
Although the time period jumped around because the men were wearing like 18th century stuff and then they jumped back to like 16th century stuff. It's just old. It's just old European. But it's like why did Snow White look so bad? Why have other live action Disney movies like not looked very good? And I think it's because they took a lot of inspiration from the animation, a lot of like inspiration from the colors and from the designs, but they like muted it to a realistic level in a way that like Snow White's dress is like bright and painful live action. And Cinderella's dress is like gorgeous and
it's ethereal.
Not the color of the color of the original one, because the original one is silver, even though all of her posters she's in blue for some reason. But you know, and also like I'm honestly like I'm not crazy about the about the dress in the live action version. I'm not crazy about the shoes. It's all
But you know, that's a personal preference thing. It feels kind of like childlike. It feels like child princess, you know, with the butterflies on the
but
neckline
everyone
or
else is there's not a single character in this movie whose costume doesn't look great.
No. Right?
Even the extras at the ball look amazing.
Yeah.
All the rival princesses look so good.
Mm-hmm.
This just shows the importance of having like a really great costume department.
Well, sure. I mean, if the costuming is going to be the focus of how you're going to justify this movie, because I don't think that that's superfluous, you know, like I think that I think that the costume designer for this, whose name I forget, but who's like a sort of like legendary costume designer, who's won a bunch of Oscars and whatever. Like it's pretty clear to me that she took a lot of cues from the time period that not that Cinderella took place in, but that it was made in, and like the sort of artistry that is so coded so 50s, you know, and
with like the sort of dress shaped like cloth stuff.
Yes, and it seems to me like she really did have like Joan Crawford, Betty Davis in mind when she was dressing Cate Blanchett, you know, like sort of paying homage to this being a very, very 50s story in Disney's repertoire, you know. So yeah, for the marketing, Rita, just lie down. Damn. Lie down.
Oh my God.
So Mac did a Cinderella collection in the same way that they did for Maleficent the year before. Disney, Swarovski was super involved in all the costuming. They partnered with them to get all the crystals that they were sewing into all the dresses. Swarovski also made the glass slippers. Swarovski offered a set of jewelry called the Tremaine Collection, which is based on Cate Blanchett's costumes. They're really ugly. I do not recommend that you wear them. But
Tremaine Collection.
They look better on screen.
Swarovski. Ah.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know.
Yeah.
They tried.
They're for your Aunt Gladys. Is the vibe.
They're for the evil stepmother in your life.
Exactly. But then also the photo for the movie poster was taken by Annie Leibovitz, who is of course just a legendary, photographer of famous people and the fashion industry. The point being that the marketing campaign was focused on presenting this new version of Cinderella as a fashion showcase. It was like it's like, look how beautiful Disney is. It's supposed to feel a little highbrow. And I think that's pretty successful. The costumes are absolutely super beautiful. They're super gorgeous.
Insane. They're so good.
Yeah. And this poster is itself extremely beautiful. It's, I think, the best Disney remake poster. Like that Anne Leibovitz photo is beautiful. It's got so much movement and like the like it's properly balanced and the colors are all like, it's gorgeous.
This is the one with like the clouds in the back.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really nice.
It is nice. And so like to me, since Disney princesses are so concerned as just a film archetype with beauty and glamour and aesthetic, I don't think it's like, if you're going to remake a Disney movie, I don't think it's the worst approach to sell it as an exercise in beauty and aesthetic, you know? And
I think it's great.
It seems like it knew its place.
Yeah. Or even it's like, I think there's a lot of Disney movies. I think one of the great things about these animated movies that we're going through is like, in my mind, like, yeah, they're all Disney movies, but they all kind of occupy like a niche.
Yeah, sure.
You know, like Aladdin has Jasmine in it, but like the reason I love Aladdin so much is Robin Williams, is because it's a fucking hilarious movie. You know, Cinderella's beautiful. Pocahontas is brave or whatever. I haven't seen that one in a while. No, Moana is brave, right? She does that stuff. What else is there? Lion King, great music. Little Mermaid, whatever. Like they all have things that they can, that you're right. Which is to say, like, I think I think you're right, but I don't think it's like they all have to be like, oh, look how beautiful it is. But they can, like, the original movies have a thing that they're remembered for.
I guess I mean just like Disney princesses specifically, you know?
Oh,
like
sure.
that is very much the Disney princess image is like, you know.
So you're talking like Snow White, Cinderella, Princess and the Frog.
Yeah. Okay. Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast. Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
So this movie did really well. Did really, really well.
Yeah.
It the most optimistic industry expectations that I could find was like $60 million in the first weekend, and it made 63. Reported box office figures is $543 million. That's crazy. That's $500 million.
Yeah, that's insane. That's half an Avatar.
Oh God, fuck those movies. I hate them so much.
They're
so bad.
I walked out of Way of the Water furious that I had wasted 2.5 hours of my precious life on watching the first movie again, but on a boat. Oh my God.
And with whales instead of rocks.
It was, oh my God. I hated it
God,
so much.
oh my God. The terrible book I was reading today is about Avatar. It's this like sort of journalistic puff piece about how like James Cameron is revolutionizing movies by making this like dumb Pocahontas ripoff. I hate it so much.
I saw this thing on Reddit a couple months ago that was like, Avatar was revolutionary, blah, blah, blah. And then the next commenter was like, it wasn't that good. And then the first guy again was like, well, you didn't realize that he filmed it in 48 frames per second, which no one had ever done before. And so now a lot of people are filming in 48 frames per second.
Nobody is filming in 48 frames per second.
That's not true.
Do you understand that that's like, twice as much footage? Why would you do that? Everybody hates it.
Yeah. It looks bad, whatever.
Anyway, critics liked this movie, audiences liked this movie. Overall, it was considered a huge success. No doubt a huge relief for Disney, who would then go on to lean hard into this remake bullshit. So
too hard,
a little too hard.
Way too hard.
Here's a couple critic quotes. Kate Muir. I don't know these British names, you know.
Mir.
We're so American, painfully American. From the Times, with hardly a whiff of irony and no jokey postmodern references, Branagh's fairy tale is sweet and sincere, a midnight feast for little girls. Oh yeah, Kenneth Branagh directed this movie. I keep forgetting.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
Can I tell you something? This is legitimately the only Kenneth Branagh movie that I like.
You don't like Thor? I think Thor is pretty fun.
I don't like Thor. No, I don't like Thor.
You don't like the Agatha Christie?
Agatha Christie's?
Oh, I like them. I think they're fun.
Agatha Christie's.
I think they're really cute.
The reason I don't like the Agatha Christie's is not the direction, is that he's in them. And I have liked Kenneth Branagh in one thing, and that thing was Harry Potter and
he's perfect
the
casting.
Chamber of Secrets.
He's perfect casting.
So good. He does. I don't know if you've seen his Hamlet.
I have, yeah. He's not right.
And look, I'm not gonna argue that he's not a very accomplished actor.
He is.
He can do great things. But the first act of Hamlet is a comedy. That's the point. That's why scene 3 is such a big fucking deal. His dead dad shows up, is because it is a comedy until that point. And it honestly remains partially a comedy until Hamlet kills Rosen whatever and Guilden thing. And
Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
Yeah, Timon and Pumbaa. And Kenneth Branagh plays Hamlet with the same intensity in like Act 5, Scene 2 as he does in Act 1, Scene 1. Yes. And it does not work.
No, it's not good. And even then, even when that movie was made, what was it like? Not 90s, 80s?
I don't know. 90s, I think. I had to watch it in high school.
He's too old. He's too old for Hamlet.
Yeah.
Anyway, Donald Clark of the Irish Times said, nobody is likely to confuse Kenneth Branagh's irresistible take on a very familiar story with an art film, but in its lack of experiment, this latest Cinderella does feel positively experimental. Which is like, I think especially with these early remakes, or remakes of early Disney, that is kind of the best thing you can hope for, you know? Like, it's the reason this new Cinderella is pretty good is because they're not trying to make it into something it isn't, you know?
Right.
Like, they're updating it a little bit.
They're not trying to make a PC Snow White because, the world kind of needs that right now.
Right. I mean, they're updating the things that need to be updated. It's not okay to have, you know, people's beauty denote their moral quality. We don't have ugly stepsisters anymore. That's a good change. It's it's a good change because this is a live action movie. It's longer. It's just sort of the
the animated Cinderella is only 74 minutes long.
And
it's short.
And because it's live, like, I mean, so it kind of seems like one of our sort of emergent goals with our project here in this first season of this podcast is like kind of reverse engineering what exactly the artistic intentions of Disney and the people remaking these movies are, or aren't, you know. Live action movies and animation are trying to do fundamentally different things. They're different mediums, you know?
Yes.
And in live action, because you are making a sort of literal direct commentary on reality, because you've got, you know, human beings standing in front of your camera saying words out of their mouth.
Right.
Like, that changes the way that you should approach a story. And it's like, for something like Snow White or Pinocchio or Dumbo for that matter, it's like the strategy of taking this remake and using it to like improve upon the original, instead of take the sort of themes of the original and bring them to life in a new age. Like, that's what this new Cinderella is doing, you know?
Yeah. I think that's a really great point, because with the two mediums, because a lot of these are remakes, but they should be adaptations.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, totally. So like, so I was just talking about, you know, how the romance of the original Cinderella, like, we don't need to know what the prince is like, you know,
in the animation.
The animation is doing the character development for you. If you're not paying attention to the animation, then you're not getting what this movie is trying to give to you, you know? Right. So in the new one, we don't have that. There's no animation here. We have to like recreate that thing through acting. This is kind of an acting showcase in its own way. And through set design and costume design and whatever. So it is good that we know what the prince is like. And it is good, I think, that they meet early on, and it like I like that. Yeah, the additions they make to this to the story from the 1950 version are good. I think, you know, it's good that he has a personality.
I really like them. I felt like they went a little hard with kind of the Cinderella, like, family life before the stepmother.
The pacing is maybe a little off, and I think that I think the reason for that is just because Cate Blanchett has top billing in this movie, and I'm sure that like in her contract she had a, you know, set amount of minutes that she was to appear in the theatrical cut or whatever.
Sure. I mean, I thought she was so good.
She's flawless. She's good.
She's so good. Have you seen Tar?
No, I haven't.
Oh, dude!
I know.
You got us. I watched Tar literally on a fucking awful airplane screen, and I was captivated. My jaw dropped like 6 times. Such a great movie.
She's amazing.
There's I liked a lot of the movie, and I liked a lot of the remake, and I was going into it expecting not to like it, especially when it opened with like kind of overbearing narration.
I hate narration.
And I was like, God, it's gonna be whatever.
Yeah. I will say something I didn't like. I didn't love the fairy godmother sequence. I thought it was pretty bad. Helena Bonham Carter I have no issue with. She's fine. She's great. She's you know, she's I like her performance. I like that. It's fine. It's just that like the lizards, no thanks. I'm good.
Well, so that's a very interesting point, because the footmen in the original story were lizards.
Really? That's interesting.
So In the original story, it was mice into horses, or the French story, I should say. Mice into horses, a rat into the coachman, and lizards into
That's
footman.
cute. I'm okay with that, but like I don't think that the average film goer is going to appreciate that the lizards were in the original story, and that's why there are lizards now, even though they weren't mentioned at any point in the previous like hour.
Yeah, they did just kind of show up out of nowhere. That's fair.
And also they're creepy.
At least the goose had a couple fun moments before it was turned into the
there are a couple
the part where they're in the greenhouse and the goose just pokes his head around the window after like a fairy godmother casts a spell. It cracked me up. It was so funny.
There are cute moments, and I don't need it to be as like slapstick as it is. I don't need them to, be in the greenhouse and have the pumpkin grow and smash them against the window. I'm okay without that.
Yeah, there were a couple moments like that.
A little off to me.
There were a couple moments like that where it was like, wait, what is this movie? And it was like, that's one of them. The part where they're racing home and then like the carriage almost falls off the cliff.
Yeah.
That was kind of weird. Yeah. I'm like, was this movie in 3D? Like, did you have to put this half-cocked action sequence in here? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think we talked about with Dumbo, like, why wasn't Helena Bonham Carter in that movie? Mm-hmm. And I watched this movie, and as soon as she appeared as the fairy godmother, because I didn't recognize her voice in the narration, I was like, oh, that's why she wasn't in Dumbo. But she was in Alice in Wonderland.
Yes.
So
They should have put Helena Bonham Carter in every Disney movie.
In every
They'd be so much better if they did.
She should have been the Phil Coulson of the Disney remake universe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That would have been fun.
You know what else I like about this new one? I like that they explain how Cinderella ended up being a servant in her own home. That it's I think it's actually a pretty good character beat, that it's because she's so kind and like kind of a doormat. Like she just can't say no when somebody asks for her help. And so her like evil stepmother just like manipulates her into having this position. I think that's like a pretty good representation of a certain kind of abuse, that is pretty absent in the original.
I also thought that like the establishing like why the evil stepmother was so evil, like a lot of times in these movies, like it doesn't really work. Yeah, but I kind of liked it in this one. Yeah, I did too. Like, yeah, it was like, she saw like how much more the dad liked his daughter than liked, her family. And then when they are in financial ruin because the dad dies halfway through like a big trade, and she was like, I married for love and it was fucking sucked. And then I married for stability and that didn't work out. And now I'm bitter and angry. I was like, okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, I think it works. Great. And I think that they cut to Cate Blanchett's reactions. A lot of reaction shots of hers that work really well, I think. A lot of reaction shots of her not reacting, but somehow looking fucking fabulous. Yeah. I think they say it, the fairy godmother says it in her voiceover at some point that like she was grief stricken but wore it very well. But like the shot where she's like kind of eavesdropping when Cinderella is like talking with her father and it's like, oh, I miss mom, and he says, oh yeah, me too, miss her a lot, miss her every day, miss her all the time, and of course Lady Tremaine is like a little offended and like, a little heartbroken is her expression. I like that. I think it works. It kind of adds some dimension to what is usually a really tired kind of basic gender jealousy trope of older women being jealous of younger women because they're just so pretty or whatever. Yeah. This is not the substance. I one thing about this movie that I really appreciated is like there weren't any weak performances.
No,
like
everybody's
I know you didn't like the lizards, but I thought like the people playing the lizards played them really well.
Everybody was doing their job,
and like even the women that the soldiers try the glass slipper on in the montage. Each of them, I was like, believable, good performance, great job. And it's like, and it's what you said. I think it all goes back to what you said earlier of like, this is a really excellently produced movie. Where it's like maybe this happened at some point in production, but it didn't show up on screen. Like you cannot look at any part of this movie and be like, okay, they were just like, fuck it, it's good enough. Like that just never happens. And I was one of the things that I love most in films, like let me rephrase it more negatively because I feel like that's my niche. The thing I hate most in films is when you can tell that they didn't try that hard.
Sure. Yeah.
That pisses me off so much. And I didn't see that.
I mean, I think that's that's an art sin, you know?
Yeah. And I think it's why we've been hating on some of the more recent remakes.
Absolutely.
Like, that's everywhere.
Well, and like it's part of the thing about the recent remakes is that I don't know, like I'm a little obsessed with budget these days just because they're so inflated. And you can tell that whoever's in charge of movie making now is like kind of relying on the fact that movies have been expensive in the past and like, well, movies just are expensive. So what's another 10 or 20 or 50 or $100 million, you know? But it's like, this is a movie where it very much feels like no expense is spared, but every expense is justified, you know? Like you can see where the money is going.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That sequence, the waltz at the ball, that's like
outstanding.
It's so good. It's and it's like long. It's like 3 minutes long, you know? But it's like there's some artistry there. Like there's some clear intention to focus on the movement of the dress and the choreography. And like there's a lot to aesthetically experience in so much of this movie. It's like, yeah, really nice to actually see that kind of intention.
It's really, yeah. As far as good movies, or as far as remakes, this is definitely the best one that we've watched.
Oh, totally.
So
By far.
What was your favorite song in this movie? Oh wait,
they
took all the music out.
All the music is gone because this isn't a remake.
What was your favorite?
My favorite what?
Part.
Oh, my favorite part. What's my favorite part? Probably the waltz. Probably the when she arrives at the ball and dances with Prince.
My favorite was the just like the actors who played the Goose Coachman, the Lizard Footman. I just thought like,
oh wow, you liked them?
I like them so much. There are these acting exercises where you basically just, you know, act like a person, but you're inspired by like X animal.
Sure.
And I was watching them, and it's like, to me, in my mind, like I'm not a very physical. I haven't acted since high school. But even then, when I was good, I like wasn't a very physically embodied actor. And so just seeing these people be like controlling the reins on a horse and looking at him and being like, that's a motherfucking goose pretending to be a person. I was just so impressed by it. I just thought it was like so good. And I think like just those performances are very representative of the care that went into this movie, because that's really easy to half-ass.
True.
You put on some makeup, you put on a prosthetic nose, and like who gives a shit like how you're acting? But like the producer cared, so the director cared, so the actors cared.
Yeah.
And I think that was really great. That was my favorite part.
Yeah.
Should which one did you like better?
That's actually a good question this time.
I know. It's not an obvious answer.
No, it isn't an obvious answer. I still like the original better. I just think it's I mean, it's not groundbreaking in the same way that Snow White is, but like animation at that point in time is still kind of like there's a lot to do and there's a lot to explore. And I think that the new one is sort of hampered by the fact that it is a remake, even though it pretends not to be, you know, and they did a lot that's good within those constraints. But I mean, the original Cinderella is what you can do without those constraints. And given that, like, if you look at that movie within the sort of artistic context in which it was produced, it's just like, I mean, it's fucking beautiful. It's beautiful, you know, like there are a lot of like, I think it's better paced, you know, and there are a lot of sequences in that one that, especially toward the end when it stops being about the fucking mice. That actually are like the amount of emotion they're able to pull from these just like drawn figures kind of brings a tear to your eye. It's like really lovely. It's very,
yeah. I also like the original one better, but it's so much closer.
Yeah.
Than anything else that we've seen. So.
Yeah, and it isn't that nice. What a relief.
What's our listener recommendation from you?
I've been these past 14 weeks I've been streaming Fallout New Vegas, which I would recommend that everybody take a look at if you haven't yet. It's such a good game.
Take a look at the game or take a look at your stream.
Well, you can take a look
on twitch.tv / the Morbid Zoo or whatever the URL actually
is. The Morbid Noob, thank you very much.
Is it really?
Yes.
That's funny.
But yeah, Fallout New Vegas is just an impeccably written game. I'm a terrible Fallout fan, and I kind of prefer Fallout 4. It's one of my comfort games. I like the vibes a little better. I think the mechanics are a little better. Gameplay's a little better, but the writing in New Vegas is just like unparalleled. It's so good.
It's Obsidian has a long history of this like excellent game.
Yeah. What about you?
This is not something I watched recently, but I've been seeing for your consideration ads for it. The movie Rebel Ridge, which is on Netflix.
Rebel Ridge.
It's a thriller. I'm gonna double check that because I was so sure you would have heard of this.
Well,
movie.
I don't live in LA anymore, so I don't see the for your consideration ads.
Yeah, it's called Rebel Ridge. It came out on Netflix, which is a travesty. It is so good. It's by the guy who made The Green Room.
Oh, okay.
It is excellent. It is a action thriller. I mean, it's written and directed by Jeremy Saulnier, whichever one that is. It's a fantastic
What's
movie.
it about?
It's about a black Marine veteran is going to bail his cousin out of jail, and on the way he gets pulled over by these cops, and they use asset forfeiture to seize the bail money, seize $36,000, you know, and it's about him trying to get the money back to pay his cousin's bail, and the cops are bullying him and they won't do it, and it escalates is what I'll say. And it's really, really excellent. And I wish, you know, if it was 10 years ago, it would have been in theaters, and it's a movie that would be so great to watch on a screen that size. But I really love this movie.
That sounds great.
I don't know if it's as great as I'm making it sound, but I liked it so much. I really recommend watching it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, next week it's It's Alice in Wonderland.
Alice in Wonderland.
That should be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I'm super
I have
excited.
not. I think I've seen. I think I saw Alice in Wonderland one time, and then everything else I know from it is from the Kingdom Hearts.
I used to watch Alice in Wonderland all the time when I was a kid. I don't know what it like. As we've been going through these old Disney movies, like I've been, I've been like regaining a bunch of recovered memories about like watching them when I was a child, and like these.
Watching them like in the cult compound that you were raised?
Precisely.
Yeah. When they erased your memories. I don't know if that joke works at all.
I think it's through Alice in Wonderland. Like it's these first 5 Disney movies that I think maybe my like, I don't know, my establishing memories of film and my how I relate to movies was very much set by Disney in a big way. Like I think literally I was just watching all of these movies on repeat day after day after day after day after day until I went to kindergarten. Like Cinderella one day and Alice in Wonderland the next and Snow White the next.
It was the same but for like the golden Renaissance.
Yeah. Yeah, for whatever reason, the Renaissance Disney movie, like Lion King was important to me for sure, but like it was really these old ones that like for some reason it's just that those are the ones we had on VHS and those are the first movies I ever saw and I watched them over and over again. So I think it ends with Alice in Wonderland, but by Peter Pan we're exiting the time period that is like formative to me. So that'll be interesting. Yeah.
Very interesting. Cool. Okay. Thanks so much for joining us on the 4th episode of Once More with You. We'll be back in 2 weeks looking at Alice in Wonderland. If you want to support us, check out our Patreon, which is live now, where you can become a member of our movie club and get exclusive access to our Discord and a couple other goodies. That I don't know if we've written them down yet.
It's a work in progress. It's fine. It's early days. Follow us on most social medias at With Feeling Pod. Do you have a question, comment, concern? Did you work on the live action Cinderella and can tell us how everything turned out so well? Email us at withfeelingpod@gmail.com. Thanks so much for listening, and we will see you next time. Okay, goodbye.
All right, bye-bye.
Often stripped of love, just stare like and buzz once more with feeling. When you're out of fresh designs, don't accept your clear